Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's LAEDC webinar. Today's topic is how to grow the value of your small business, Series 1. My name is Seta Zarabian, and I am a regional manager with LAEDC. Wanted to go over our vision. Our vision is a reimagined Los Angeles regional economy, growing, equitable, sustainable, and resilient that provides a healthy and high standard of living for all. What is our mission? We are reinventing our economy to collaboratively advance growth and prosperity for all. Wanted to let you know that this video will be recorded and it will be posted on our website at www.laedc.org. As you well know, LAEDC is a 501c3 private nonprofit organization. Again, my name is Seta Zarabian, and welcome to our first series. I would also like to introduce you to my colleague, Christina Ingram. Christina, a little bit about what the Business Assistance Program does. Well, we offer technical assistance. And what that is technical assistance with complimentary and confidential consulting for all businesses across LA County. We take a strategic view of doing this, a team approach. And we are experts that are all throughout LA County to sit down, work with you, to see how we can further assist you so you become a resilient and growing business. And the ways that we do this is through workforce training and development, permitting assistance, tax incentives, financing resources, access to capital, grant and loan opportunities, site selection, relocation, cost containment strategies, business resilience resources, utility programs, direct help to employers to overcome challenges and retain staff. We also help with business and financial resources by providing information, small business webinars, just like you have here, and also analysis and economic outlooks from our LAEDC's Institute of Applied Economics. Again, this webinar will be recorded, and we will be taking Q&A at about 10 minutes at the end of the webinar. So please, if you have any questions, just go ahead and put it in our Q&A, and we will go ahead and get to it. With that said, I'd like to introduce you to Christina, and Christina is going to take the next slide.
Wonderful. So as Seta mentioned, we connect business owners with resources that are meant to help your enterprise sustain and grow. These are some of the categories that we assist with. So permit assistance, financing your business with help with access to capital, both loans and grants. We can also discuss lines of credit for businesses. We assist with utilities, so energy efficiencies, which could mean looking at your equipment as well as your service plan. We have workforce development partners. We collect and assess and also report on economic data. And we help businesses to reduce risk and increase your bottom line.
Thank you, Christina. Next, we are going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. But first, Christina is going to go ahead and introduce our partners. Go ahead, Christina.
Yes, so we have two special partners here today providing resources to you. They are from the private sector. So Jeff Knackle is the founder and managing partner of Growth Partners, where they like to say, first we are farmers, then we are hunters. And that's because his advisory firm offers two different types of service to mid-market companies. That is advisory as well as transactional services. Jeff works with owners well before a liquidity event to assist with readiness and optimization. This includes proprietary assessment and analytics to answer such questions as what should be done next, how best to create new value, and when and in what form should a liquidity event be executed. Jeff also engineers and executes liquidity event transactions, minority, majority, and 100% interest sales, because there are different types you may not know about, at the optimal time and in the optimal form for a liquidity event. This activity entails producing narratives related to niche distinction, granular information disclosures, and build plans. In summary, Jeff is a thought leader in his profession and a unique turnkey resource for owners, assisting with important decision-making and objectives. So we're very pleased to have Jeffrey lending his knowledge to us today, and he has brought with him a partner that he frequently works with to service businesses. So Ron Munman has more than 2 decades of experience in financial services. He spent that focusing on wealth management and as a managing director and wealth partner at JP Morgan for 18 years. He serves high net worth individuals and families with an emphasis on small and mid-market business owners, whom he assists with advanced planning services. He sits on JP Morgan Advisors Wealth Council, chairs the Most Fundable Companies program through the Pepperdine Business School, and is actively involved as a sponsor and speaker at Loyola Marymount's Family Business Forum. So I'm pleased to introduce you to both of these gentlemen, and I'll let you take it from here.
Well, thank you very much, Seda and Christina. I'm very appreciative to have everyone's attention on a post-holiday basis this morning. I think we could all get used to 3-day weekends. Certainly I could. I also want to thank the LAEDC for the invitation to present to all of you. I've gotten up the curve and understand that the LAEDC is quite a resource, and suggestively, I think you should all further explore it if you don't have a good understanding in terms of what could be offered. It exists, and I think you should take advantage of it. I'm also very privileged to have Ron Munman on this presentation. Ron is he's the best business owner-oriented wealth manager that I know in Los Angeles. And he's going to have an integral role in series 2 of these events. And I'll get to that in a minute. Today's subject is a little bit consequential, I would think, in terms of increasing the value of one's business. It's really the objective of most owners. So then there'll be a lot to cover. So this is again series 1, all about increasing the value of your business, and series 2 will be dedicated to harvesting the value that's created through a liquidity event. So I think we have a nice circle, and we're going to try to fill it in as best we can to get you up the curve and understanding those things which are really important to understand, all for purposes of enhancing your decision making, because no value can be produced without the proper decisions. And my job is to give you some guidance about all of the dimensions that are really important. So what we're going to do is, if you go back to the opening slide, we're going to talk about first valuation, and I'm going to make a very complex subject very simple for you. Then we're going to talk about the current standing of your business and how the standing relates to its value at this time. Then we're going to try to step into the future and talk about the future value of your business and how to attack that. And then we'll summarize with some key takeaways. So at the end of the day, I hope we'll have enough time here for this. I'll do the best I can, because again, I have a fair amount to say. So let's kick this off with kind of defining the setting. And the setting is valuation, because that's what we're all going to be working toward in terms of increasing valuation. So if you go to slide 2, that'd be great. Not that there's too much on that, but believe it or not, valuation comes down to 2 elements, in that every aspect or dimension of a company can be correlated to these 2 things. And the first element, or the first cornerstone, is called earnings certainty. And earnings certainty pertains to the degree to which your company's earnings are repeatable, stable, concentrated, reliable, etc. The greater the repeatability or certainty of the earnings, the higher the value of that earnings stream. Period, end of statement, end of paragraph. That is a cornerstone to understanding how best to manage your business. So all those things that would contribute to creating more earnings certainty, and of course we'll get into this, are the things you need to prioritize. Secondly, and not unexpectedly, is earnings certainty growth. So if you have earnings certainty and the growth of those earnings, that's kind of the perfect storm to maximize valuation. Now, both earnings certainty and earnings growth are correlated to a concept called white space positioning, which I guess is a fancy way of really trying to describe companies that are highly niched. And highly niched companies have distinctions. Those distinctions should afford earnings certainty through customer repeatability and then earnings growth. So when I take a company to market to sell the business, the first thing I do when I do my own due diligence and I ask for a ton of information is really to diagnose a company's white space positioning. Sometimes it's obvious through the customer value proposition, which is what your company offers to the marketplace. Sometimes it needs to be found or even created because the marketplace will always reward companies that have somehow separated themselves from within their sector. There are a couple of strategies that we'll talk about, blue ocean strategy and purple ocean strategy. That'll be a little bit down the road in this, but white space positioning is the objective of everything we talk about in regard to increasing the value of the business. It's essential. So let's proceed now to, if you would, to the next slide. And this is where it's going to get maybe a little bit heavier. Talking about your business as it stands today. What I do really on behalf of people like yourselves is represent a conduit to the sentiment of the marketplace. My advisement is through the lens of the marketplace, or put another way, the sentiment of the marketplace, or put another way, buyer preferences, or put another way, best practices. All these things that we're going to talk about are going to be opportunities for you to improve your earnings certainty and your earnings growth. So I've identified the top 10, arguably, dimensions within your company, within your business. And what we're going to do is evaluate each one. And for each one, I'm going to point out 3 subdimensions that the marketplace will evaluate. And as a result of that, to afford you the opportunity to make decisions to either enhance what exists or to remediate what exists. At the end of the day, the translation is valuation rewards and valuation penalties. Okay. So let's start with maybe the most important aspect to any business, and that is its management and its management team. The first issue is dependency. Is the business 100% dependent on, or no, very dependent on the president or owner of the business? So does the owner have relationships with customers? Is the owner have a finger in every operation of the company, whether it be internal or external? Bottom line is, the more the company is dependent on a single person or maybe even 2 people, the higher the enterprise risk. Okay. The second dimension is configuration. Management teams need to be balanced between those resources dedicated to the internal operations of a company and those resources dedicated to the external activities of the business. Both are important. Each company will have its own balance. There's no silver bullet or one size fits all template. Every business is different depending on how it operates in the marketplace and how it relates to its customers. So there needs to be a balance. That's why I can't talk about this in anything in absolute terms, but there needs to be a balance and in the proper configuration of resources at the managerial level, at the middle management level, such that someone can view the company as well balanced. Because if there are gaps, it's a problem. Creates enterprise risk and it's a valuation penalty. The third for management pertains to the support tools, such as KPIs, key performance indicators, such as feedback loops, the degree to which you've implemented a certain culture that may require a regular schedule of management meetings where you're getting feedback from your internal people, like your operational people, and you're getting feedback, most importantly, from the people who are the mouthpieces of your company, who are out in the marketplace trying to generate new business through sales and marketing. So those three dimensions in management are probably, I think, the most important: dependency, configuration, and the support tools that you have to manage better in order to make better decisions. Number two, the product or service that you offer. Probably the most important aspect to what you offer is the degree to which your value is integrated, or your offering is dense, okay? The more bundling of value that you're providing to the same customer, the greater stickiness in the relationship, the lower the displacement risk, okay? So the objective in building a company is really to identify an opportunity, and then to fill a gap in the marketplace, but then to add more value into that gap to create your own boundaries beyond what your competition does, because you want to offer as much as you can. And what a company offers is referred to as your customer value proposition. The degree to which that the CVP is robust is again directly correlated to earnings certainty and earnings growth, because the presumption is you'll have customers that'll be loyal and repeatable because you're offering something more that others don't. And this is an absolute. So the more you offer based on the density of what you offer is critically important. Number two, is your offering more commoditized or more customized? If it's commoditized, you're probably offering something where you're facing margin pressure and you're in a diminishing return paradigm of trying to reduce as much cost as possible in order to maintain your margin. That's a space you don't want to be in. You really want to provide something that's more customized, where you can capture more margin by offering special value to your customer base, because your customer base is always like a layer cake. You have your core customers, you have your peripheral customers, you have prospective customers or adjacent customers, and theoretically you should be offering different things on the margin to each of those segments in order to achieve the greatest penetration. Thirdly, in regard to the product or service group, you should be modifying what you offer on a somewhat regular basis. Now, when I mean regular basis, I don't mean every 6 months, but maybe every 18 months, to think about how you can enhance, what else can you add to your offering. The marketplace, meaning buyers, whether they're strategic buyers or financial buyers, private equity firms, will love to see companies that offer product or services that evolve over time, whether it's a second generation of product, or it's a line extension to what you're offering, or it's a new capability. And we'll get into this a little bit later on, but the key is that you should always be pursuing the dynamic of change. And no one likes change, because change is disruptive and it creates uncertainty. But at the end of the day, that's going to provide the most reward from the perspective of the marketplace, because it demonstrates that the company is living and breathing and evolving. The third set here pertains to customers, and the first, I guess, dimension to highlight is the obvious, which you probably all know, which is customer concentration. Any customer that contributes 20% or more to your revenue is basically put on the radar screen of buyers as a negative. It's a valuation penalty. So to increase value, what you'd like is a nice distribution of customers with revenue contributions that are 20% or less. Simply because the greater the concentration, the greater the enterprise risk. Because if something disrupts that one important customer, then your company gets disrupted. So there's that waterfall effect. The second aspect about customers, which is directly aligned with earnings certainty, pertains to customer repeatability, or more specifically, recurring revenue. everyone likes nirvana of recurring revenue, like a software company on a subscription basis, or like an aerospace company with multi-year contracts where there are certain minimum quantities based on a max and min price to hedge pricing volatility. But though those are ideal outcomes. So the degree to which your customer base is regular, that is a cornerstone to a higher value earning stream. Simply because there's a certain reliance on that stream continuing versus companies that may deal with one customer one time over a 3-year period. That's more of an ad hoc modality, and that's not that attractive to a buyer. And the third key aspect of customers pertains to new customer acquisitions. Valuation is driven, as I said, earnings certainty, earnings growth. Well, customer acquisition pertains to earnings growth. There needs to be a proactive effort to develop new customers, and hopefully there'll be a record of new customer acquisition. Again, one of the things that I always ask for when I represent the sale of a company is the degree to which the customer base has changed and specifically has grown. So each year I ask for new customer data and the origin of that data if it's possible to get. So just to review quickly here, and I should be doing this overall, and just in case you're taking notes, under management, the 3 key elements are dependency, configuration, so your support tools. Under the offering or product or service is the degree to which you bundle value, the degree to which you're commoditized versus customized, and whether or not you're modifying on a regular basis. The 3 for customer relationships: customer concentration, recurring revenue or repeatable customers, and new customer acquisitions. Now, moving on to the marketplace, specifically your company's relationship to the marketplace. The 3 dimensions, well, the first dimension is sales and marketing. Sales and marketing is never perfected. Okay, there's never a company that has achieved that heavenly state. There's always more work to do in terms of being able to represent the company better, whether it be through the sales force or through a marketing program. But the degree to which a company is proactive versus reactive makes a big difference. Because if you have a mechanism that is productive, meaning you're acquiring new customers and it's active, it can be a direct sales force, it can be a group of reps. That's not as important. What is important are the results. So at the end of the day, there should be time and dedication and investment. Typically, in my experience, the investment in this area is underinvested, and it really shouldn't be. It should be overinvested. So sales and marketing is key. Paying attention to sales and marketing is high correlation to increasing value. Second is market share capture, and that's related to sales and marketing, of course. The degree to which you can demonstrate that you're gaining more ground in your sector at the expense of others is gold in the mountain, okay? So to the degree to which that you can actually measure that, I know it's fundamentally problematic to do that, but that is what any counterparty would love to see, because that validates the fact that you're offering something different, that your earnings are of a high quality. If you are earning something different, they're going to be repeatable. And oh, by the way, you're gaining market share, so you're growing. See, that's the whole nexus between earnings certainty and earnings growth. That's why I said everything can be extrapolated at the end of the day to those 2 foundations. The third in the marketplace is your pricing power. And technically, it's called demand elasticity. If you're offering something that has differentiated value, you should have pricing leverage, where if you were to increase prices to increase margins, your demand would not decrease. Okay, such that your demand becomes inelastic, where your demand is going to be whatever it is. If you increase on a reasonable basis, I'm not saying to increase 50%, then of course you would lose customers. They would seek alternatives. But the degree to which companies have this elasticity of demand in its favor is a big indicator to whether or not the company is truly providing differentiated value. Typically, companies are under pricing pressure based on their competition. And again, one of the truisms here, in terms of my overall message, is that differentiation is the key. So offering differentiated value to the same customer base and then expanding it to other customer layers, that's a black box, if you will. So the three key dimensions under your company's relationships to the marketplace: your sales and marketing capability, and from my perspective, you can't invest enough in that. Number two, to proactively account for market share to the extent you can. Obviously, the more market share gain, the better. And whether or not you have the latitude for pricing power, and if you don't, then the objective is to figure that out in order to be able to have that power. In regard to operations, the key to operations is of course to have efficient throughput and to make what you deliver as cost effective as possible. That is typically driven by a couple of things: either special tradecraft knowledge about your process to produce, special assets, whether they be high-tech machine tools or systems, whatever it is, but some advantage on the internal side. Because when I talk about companies, I use the words, as I have already, internal and external. Internal means everything that the marketplace doesn't see to produce your product or service. External is how your company presents itself to the marketplace, and the relationship to the marketplace. So in regard to your ability to produce your product or service, the key is developing special processes to provide cost reduction. Another key is to have special assets, whether they be tangible or intangible, technology or branding, et cetera, in order to provide the greatest opportunity to produce as efficiently as possible. Attendant to that is the second dimension related to quality, and there's something called a quality quotient. And the marketplace loves to see premium providers. Premium doesn't necessarily mean you're providing the best mousetrap ever created. It does mean that what you do offer is of a higher quality than the standard. So the degree to which you can produce something that is considered premium, even if it is a commoditized product or service, is very important to be able to represent that. The third dimension in regard to operations pertains to outsourcing versus insourcing. And here there's no absolute, because every company is different depending on what is being offered and the marketplace being attended to. Typically, though, the marketplace loves to see more insourcing than outsourcing, simply because of issues like quality assurance or quality control. And again, not being dependent on a value chain or key elements that are in the realm of other companies where your company can be held hostage. So the story of operations is really trying to create process or asset distinctions, always maintaining the highest quality possible. Again, it doesn't have to be the best mousetrap, and bias toward more insourcing than outsourcing. So what we covered, the first 5 dimensions are probably are senior to the next 5, which are more subordinate. So in regard to the financial dimension, marketplace loves to see working capital managed properly. Proper working capital management pertains to managing the cash cycle properly and being able to produce the proper liquidity. If there are cash squeezes, if there are timing differences, that would need to be corrected because efficiency is being lost. Secondly, in regard to the amount of debt or leverage a company has. If the higher the debt, the lower your equity value. Because if your company is ever valued, what is being valued is something called your enterprise value. That's the total value of your business. But that's not the value of what you own. What you own is equity value. The difference is debt. Enterprise value minus your debt equals equity value. Okay, so the lower the debt, the higher the equity value. So to the extent that you can fund internally, although if you have a project that has a high ROI or IRR, it is worth assuming leverage, investing in that in order to get the earnings return, because the earnings return will more outweigh the impact of the debt. And the last is really your funding capacity, whether it be related to debt or equity. It's the degree to which your company has capacities to go to the third-party marketplace to get funded in order to fund projects or acquisitions, whatever it might be, to increase, again, the value add in your product or services, increasing the value of your customer value proposition, whatever it might be. So what the marketplace ideally likes to see in terms of valuing a company higher versus lower is the proper working capital management and liquidity, the amount of leverage being lower versus higher, recognizing it's caveated by the fact that if it is higher, hopefully or presumably there's a good reason, there's a good investment basis behind raising that debt. And you always want to raise your short-term debt and long-term debt in regard to how it's being used. You never raise short-term debt for purposes of funding a long-term project. Similarly, you never raise long-term debt for purposes of funding something that's short-term. You always want to match short-term, long-term in terms of your short-term funding and your long-term capital. And then the third is what your capacity is to do that. Now, in terms of systems can be a black hole of a lot of distress. I come across companies that almost rarely have ERP or MRP systems that are ideal in regard to their functionality today and their scalability for tomorrow. So the first dimension here to talk about is really the symmetry between your operation of business and the nature of your key support system, represented by your ERP or MRP system. The second is the degree of integration within that system, meaning, is your system integrated in regard to purchasing, inventory management, your production? Is it connected to your financial reporting system? What is the degree to which you have a well-oiled or well-integrated system that captures data that can be reconciled from one dimension to another? Marketplace loves to see that. Value of your business will be improved by having a system that is fully integrated. And again, full integration is a theoretical ideal. Pragmatically, it's very difficult to do. Most companies have a system that's working satisfactorily, and to go beyond that is a little bit of a push because it requires work and a little bit of disruption and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, the better the data, the greater the earnings certainty. And then the last dimension under systems is the financial reporting system. Typically, companies that I come across are always, they're lacking optimization when it comes to their financial reporting in regard to not having cost accounting, in regard to having a general ledger that is not, that doesn't properly measure the gross profit margin, reporting that it may have gaps, et cetera, et cetera. So in regard to systems, make sure that your systems are symmetric with your operation, with the opportunity for scalability. To the extent possible, integrate your system among many different functionalities within your business. And thirdly, never compromise on the financial reporting system. and having a excellent third-party CPA advisor to help with accounting. Let me offer this as a kind of a parenthetical to financial reporting. You don't need audited financial statements. Okay, if you're going public, yes. But for most private companies that want to remain private or be sold on a private basis, reviewed statements are fine. And usually compiled statements are also okay. But you definitely need third-party produced statements. Again, for most private companies, reviewed, fine, compiled, well, okay, but certainly not audited. So let's move on to one of my favorites here, which is strategy. And the first thing to say about strategy is what is your R&D? Or put another way, most companies don't have, well, a lot of manufacturers do, depending on your industry, but let's call it new product development. What's the degree to which you are attending to creating your next generation of product or a new product class? Obviously, those companies that are generating development are going to be rewarded more because of the prospect of earnings growth. And then enhancing existing products, well, then you get more earnings certainty. So the degree of development under strategy is a cornerstone. Number two, what's the degree to which your company has prioritized objectives? Short-term, medium-term, long-term. You got to be very disciplined about this in terms of really figuring out what the key objectives of your business are. Because you should have an ongoing list of prioritized objectives by time frame. Thirdly, a real key, and again, this is very rare in my experience, is for a company to have a written strategic plan that basically provides, even for your own employees, a roadmap of where you are, where you're going, short-term, medium-term, long-term. And then in that strategic plan, there are key elements like timing and resources and other things that I'll touch on in a moment. But having a strategic plan is well worth the time to do that. So the three key elements under strategy are the degree to which new products are being developed, whether or not you have prioritized objectives in accordance with different timeframes, and number three, whether or not you have a formal strategic plan. Moving on to franchise. Franchise is a little bit nebulous, but the first dimension under franchise is whether or not your company has any cultural distinction. Because if it does have a cultural distinction, that creates cohesion and that creates internal and external synergy. And that's what the marketplace really likes to find. And buyers never like to change that. But it's a key aspect from a buyer's perspective, especially from a strategic buyer's perspective, because they don't want clashing cultures. So if your culture is at one end of the bell curve and theirs at the other, then it's not an acquisition to make. If you're going to sell to a private equity firm and wherever your culture is on the bell curve, the private equity firm will not disrupt it, but want to enhance it because it understands that that is adding a certain vibrance and cohesion to the company to make it all the more better performing. The next is the degree to which change is taking place. Internally or externally in regard to again, developing new products or services or embracing different initiatives in the marketplace to create greater penetration. So the change dynamic is something that I always try to evaluate because I want to be able to represent that the company is not lazy. It's not happy with the way it is, based on the notion, well, if it's not broken, there's nothing to fix, there's nothing to do. Being active, having that dynamic creates a certain vibrance, and it is something that's rewarded through greater earnings certainty and earnings growth. And the last under franchise is your trusted advisor team. And that's why someone like Ron Munman is so integral, You need to have a trusted advisor team. Most private companies don't have advisory boards like a public company. But what you do probably have is a trusted CPA and a trusted lawyer. What you don't probably have is a wealth manager like Ron Munman, is a estate planning lawyer, is a risk manager, that being related to insurance and otherwise, maybe you're and a tax advisor, especially within the confines of a liquidity event. And then someone like me to talk to in terms of when you hit an inflection point about doing this or not doing that, what's the right thing to do from the perspective of improving the value of my business. So it really is creating a trusted advisor wheel, if you will, that has 6 spokes. Again, wealth, estate, risk management, tax, legal, and then someone in my profession or a valuation person to give you guidance on a somewhat regular basis about adding input regarding key decisions. And then the last section here pertains to the standing of your business. And obviously, this is an easy one where you don't want to get involved in litigation. And if you are, extinguish it as best you can. You don't want to get involved in a lot of human resource issues. That's a red flag. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And of course, you don't want any tax issues. So from a standing perspective, litigation, HR issues, and tax issues. So what I just reviewed, I see it's 11:44 here, and I have the future value to discuss. So those are the key dimensions of your business, and I've tried to articulate the key drivers and detractors related to each of those dimensions. So we talked about your current standing of your business and its value and the pushes and the pulls. Now let's talk about the future of your business. And the bottom line to the future of the business is that you need to be attending to it on a proactive basis. You need to be living and breathing, and I use the word attack. You really do need to attack the future value of your business. And here's how you do it. Okay, I'll give you a brief outline of a framework. Number one, you need to assemble all of your key people around the same table. You need then to talk about obvious opportunities and challenges. That's the easy part. There'll be probably more than you can handle. Then you need to craft propositions or if you were to pursue those opportunities and challenges, what would that look like from a timing, from a cost, from a return perspective? Then once you've modeled that out, then comes the hard part. The hard part is assigning priorities to each of those opportunities and challenges, and that helps decide what you'll do first, second, and third, because you can't do everything at the same time. The finite resource we all have is time, and unfortunately, no one's invented how to create more hours in the day. So assigning priorities is a very, very important decision. And that's why the presidents get paid the big bucks. Then once you've done that, you put the plan to paper, i.e. going back to that strategic plan. And the plan should say, who's going to do what when. So it's a form of really 2 things: making your folks accountable and also enrolling everybody to row in the same direction. And then the last thing in terms of implementation, what you want to do is revisit that plan on a quarterly basis, because the world is dynamic, your marketplace is dynamic, your company is dynamic, things change. As things change, you need to modify, adjust. And to do that, you need to refresh your plan on a regular basis. Now, within that framework, here are the key ingredients. Getting feedback from your internal people, like your operational people, about those things that they see could be improved, or those things that they've learned of from a design and engineering perspective or otherwise that could enhance your business, and really listening closely to them. As if not more important, are listening to your folks who have the relationships with your customers. And your folks should not just be representing your company, but talking to your customers about their future, what they see in terms of their future development. Because at the end of the day, there's a certain secret sauce here, which is to anticipate what your customers will need beyond confirming what your customers need today. There's a little technique that is very rudimentary, but on the other hand, it's very illustrative, which is to create a smile line where you create a set of teeth, the bottom row of teeth, and each tooth should represent something that you offer to your customer. Teeth will have different sizes depending on the emphasis or the degree to which you're providing something X versus something Y, and you'll create a configuration. Then what you do is you create the upper set of teeth based on what you think the customer needs today and what you think the customer will need tomorrow. And you're going to get a different landscape. And what you do by putting both sets of teeth together is you see a topography and you evaluate that topography in terms of where the gaps are. And really it provides a lot of navigation in terms of where maybe you need to, where the company needs to go on a short and longer term basis. It's an easy way to do it. It's a kind of a fun exercise for management teams to go through that. But again, it's very useful. Now, in terms of the approaches to building, there are essentially 3 different ways to build your company. The first is to pursue something called market share capture. This is where you're going to pursue more the same business that you're doing now, you want more of. So you're going to do it organically or you're going to acquire it. If you acquire it, you're going to realize cost synergy because you're going to eliminate a lot of the G&A. That's the easy peasy part of strategic engineering, the market share capture process, because you stay within the confines of what you're doing, you're getting more of the same, and you're eliminating cost. Okay, so that's something that should be thought about on a regular basis. Number 2 is something called horizontal integration. Horizontal integration is the fancy terminology for what I talked about before, the bundling characteristic of offering as much value as you can to the same customer base. So adding an enhancement to your product line, enhancing your product line, offering more, that offers the prospect of revenue synergy. And revenue synergy is the most powerful dynamic there is in terms of building your earnings. Okay. Marketplace loves revenue synergy. So when 2 companies are put together, if it's easy peasy, market share capture, okay, that's great. It's not going to get anybody excited. If you put 2 companies together where 1 + 1 will equal 3 from a revenue perspective, that is nirvana. That's ultimately what you want if you're thinking about acquiring or just building it organically. And then the third, just to be complete, is vertical integration. Vertical integration is a bridge too far in terms of for most companies because you're buying a competency or functionality that you're not terribly familiar with, but you're doing so based on wanting greater quality control or control of your supply chain. So at the end of the day, I am an advocate of horizontal integration. Otherwise known as Purple Ocean Strategy. You've probably heard about a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. Blue Ocean Strategy suggests that businesses change their business model and enter water where there's no competition. That's the blue. If you're operating in ocean water that is that's highly competitive, well, that's red water because there's blood in the water. Everybody's killing themselves. So I offer the hybrid, which is, or I advocate the hybrid, which is the Purple Ocean, which is expanding what you have to make your CVP more distinctive. So at the end of the day, to the extent that that can be a priority, you'll be well served by following that. So we're 11:51 right now. Let me go through the key takeaways just to be complete here. Then I'll be happy to address questions. So the first thing that we learned is that valuation is based on only 2 elements, earnings certainty, earnings growth. Really sear that into your mindset and have that be prominent when you make decisions. Number 2, a constant rate of change is necessary. Again, I know nobody likes change, it's disruptive, but changing internally to become more efficient, changing externally to penetrate greater based on having something that is more valuable to differentiate, that's the key. Number 3, I think it's well worth it, although we didn't cover this deeply today, is go get a current valuation of your company to establish a baseline, and then get valuations on a semi-regular basis to see how well you've improved. Because out of that will come a lot of learning. And then next is, as I said, attack the future. Proactively set aside time. I know you'll have the fires du jour that preclude maybe the luxury of thinking about the future in a very formalized way, but I believe me, it's so worth it in terms of the earnings growth part of the equation, and even the earnings certainty if you're going to focus on making what you do better. And then lastly, develop the best array of advisors you can. Your company is got to be moving forward. Companies that are sitting still have a huge opportunity cost. Those companies that are moving forward, well, you're advancing in the marketplace, greater earnings, greater revenue. The requirements of your company are maybe becoming more complex. You need to evolve your trusted advisor team so they can help you get to the next level and beyond. So yeah, I think you've been drinking from a fire hose, I think, since I've been speaking. Apologize for that, but we've had limited time. I'm really looking forward to series number 2 here about how to really harvest your wealth through a liquidity event and all the issues associated with that. So there's a whole nother session to go through. So at the end of the day, I hope this has been somewhat helpful, at least putting in your mind the perspective of earnings certainty and earnings growth and all of the key things that drive value or detract value, reward value, penalize value. And so I hope this has been worth your time after the holiday weekend. And as this last slide says, if you have questions about anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. I think you folks that own businesses are economic heroes. I view my job as to give you the best opportunity to get the best reward possible. That's what's fulfilling for me. That's what I do. It's why I do it. So I'm here to help you. So again, thank you very much for your attention. Although I couldn't see you, and I hope this was worthwhile. And again, be happy to answer questions.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey. That was just a plethora of information. Appreciate it. Sorry, nobody can see my camera. I don't know what just happened, but I'm here. I also wanted to hear from Ronald as well. Ronald, please.
Well, I'll just take 20 seconds and
Sure.
tell you that Jeff has been a trusted partner and a very valuable partner in the way of ensuring that we always say on our side when somebody says, I think I'm ready to sell. We know nobody's ready. You're just not ready. All of what we're talking about really should be part of business planning in general. Jeff does a wonderful job of not only preparing you for that, but then also taking you to the Holy Land. But there are a lot of other pieces, and that's where we get involved. And we work in a collaborative way with all of our trusted partners to ensure that you're in the best position possible when it becomes time for some kind of a transition. So with that, I'm looking forward to series 2 and being more actively involved in the conversation, but I think you'll get a lot out of it if you show up for the second Zoom as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Christina.
Thank you, Jeffrey and Ron. I have really been looking forward to this because it's very interesting. And as Ron mentioned, we do have series 2 coming up on June 17th. That is a Tuesday as well. And we'll be able to dive into exit planning and get into the details. So we'll follow up with that information for you. You can also visit our website. And if there are any questions, we can answer them now, or we can always connect after the webinar one-to-one.
Do you see any questions, Christina?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
So I will just give you a taste of what series 2 will focus on. This will provide the black box related to outlining the factors for a successful liquidity event. So the necessity of conducting an analysis to determine if a liquidity event would make sense over the next 3 years, the basis of determining the optimal form of the event, for example, minority, majority, or outright sale. Also forming a cohesive, trusted advisor team, as Jeffrey and Ron touched on today. So they conduct important preparatory work, and that can include choosing an investment banker to engineer and execute the transaction, profiling of the transaction process to establish expectations, sequence, and timing. And the overall goal of this event is to convey an understanding about requisite ingredients associated with a successful liquidity event, commensurate with providing the proper and just reward for a business owner. So we hope to see you again on June 17th.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christina. And if you do have any questions and answers, we can answer later, please don't hesitate to reach out to Christina. I did go ahead and put her email address in the chat. For everyone coming through the chat. Also, you can find the recording of this webinar at www.laedc.org, and also other events and webinars that we put into play monthly.
Thank you. Seta, I do see one question asking if we
Wonderful.
have an office to visit. So I'd love to speak with you one-on-one. Anonymous attendee, if you could please send an email to my email address here, christina.ingram@laedc.org. We do like to start with a private consultation to assess your goals or challenges and take it from there.
Wonderful. Great. Wonderful. So now it is 11:59. If there are any other questions, but we do have about a minute. And Jeff or Ron, if you wanted to end it with a quote or some sort of a business saying, please welcome to do so.
If it's okay, Jeff, I would say one thing that we always talk about, and that is for all of you business owners out there, show the same sense of loyalty to your family that you show to your business. And that's why all of this is so important. You put your heart and soul into the business, but there are a lot of variables and a lot of pieces. And by having somebody like Jeff help you think all of these things through, he'll be able to bring it all together for you. And that's super important when you're running a business.
Wonderful. Very good. Any other questions, Christina, before we end?
I do see Talene asking about the recording being emailed to you. I will reach out to you when it's available. It will also be on our website and our YouTube channel, which you may find some interesting past webinars and events there too at LAEDC's YouTube channel. That's Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation.
Wonderful. If there aren't any more questions, we're going to go ahead and end. Again, thank you so much, Jeff and Ronald, for being here and being our speakers today. We look forward to the next session. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.